Hello, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share with you how to do intermittent fasting 16/8 for weight loss. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Michelle, and if you have stumbled across this video because you're trying to lose weight, please know before I even start, I have a ton of information on weight loss in this channel. I will link a playlist right up here that talks all about weight loss, as well as down in the description. I have a ton of recipes that can help you with weight loss. Weight loss is absolutely my jam, and this is just another thing that you can consider doing if you are trying to lose weight. If you enjoy this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this, as well as lots of recipe ideas. You know, I think it's very important that you look at weight loss from a very holistic point of view. And so I hope you find this information helpful, and please leave any comments that you have or questions that you have down in the description below, because I will get back to you. So in this video, I'm going to cover how to do intermittent fasting 16/8 for weight loss. Now, there's lots of ways to do intermittent fasting. So what I'm going to do is just pretend like you know nothing about intermittent fasting. I'm going to share with you what it is, how to do it, if it's right for you, how to start, the benefits, the drawbacks, some practical tips from my own experience that I think are really helpful, and some ideas of what to include and what to avoid. Let's start with, is it right for you? Now, with any sort of dietary change, I just have to say this as a disclaimer, you always want to talk to your doctor or healthcare provider beforehand to make sure it is right for you. Now, specifically, I would be speaking to people who are already taking some sort of medication, have diabetes, have low blood pressure, or a history of disordered eating. Doing intermittent fasting, a 16/8 split, is not something that should be substituted for eating a healthy, well-rounded diet. And as we go through the video, you'll understand how you're able to do both of those things and really just give yourself the best benefit if you're trying to do some intermittent fasting. But if you find that it is not for you, please know that it's totally doable and totally possible to lose weight without including intermittent fasting. So if you want to do intermittent fasting with a 16/8 split, here's what that means. That means there's an 8-hour window of time when you are having your food, and then there's a 16-hour window of time where you are refraining from eating and you are refraining from having any beverages that contain calories. So you would still be able to have some water or some herbal tea or something like that if you choose. Now, this is something that you could include on a daily basis, or some people even do it only 1 to 2 days per week. And I think it's really helpful to bring up, you know, the reason that diets don't work is because people go on them and then people go off of them. And if you're planning on doing this as a quick fix, please know ahead of time that is not going to work. If you lose any weight just by doing this alone, you'll probably put it right back on as soon as you go back to the way you were eating before you started doing this. Now, let's talk about how to start. A 16/8 split is totally doable when it comes to all of the ways that you can do intermittent fasting. In fact, you may be not far off from doing this already. So the first thing you want to do is pick your window of time. Some people eat from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., others 10 to 6. Maybe you go 11 to 7. It's all going to be up to you and what works with your schedule. You could even think of it as simple as fasting after you have dinner and then skipping breakfast. So find those hours that will work for your schedule. For me personally, I like to stop eating around 6 and then I eat somewhere around 10 or 11. Now let's get into some of the benefits of 16/8 intermittent fasting. In general, people tend to eat more foods that are richer in calories or more dense as the night goes on. And I think this is probably pretty typical for most people. You know, after you have dinner, you might have been in the habit of having a snack. You want to not have, you know, a carrot. You want some cake, or you want some cookies or some chips to snack on. So if you were to discipline yourself and say, hey, listen, I'm going to stop after dinner and I'm not going to have those snacks, you could easily be putting yourself into a small calorie deficit, which is what you need to do to lose weight. In order to lose weight, you always need to be in some small calorie deficit. You need to be feeding your body a little bit less than it needs to maintain the weight that it's at, and that means you lose weight. And I'm going to gloss over a couple of studies that are in the book, How Not to Diet by Dr. Greger. So if you want to get a little bit more in depth and look at the actual studies, I recommend taking a look at that book, and I'm on the chapter where it's talking about fasting. So one of the studies talks about prolonged nightly fasting with reduced evening food intake has been associated with lower levels of inflammation and better blood sugar control. And because you're consuming a little bit less calories and you're in that calorie deficit, studies have shown that eating with these timed windows will increase weight loss. Other studies suggest that doing intermittent fasting in the 16-8 window will enhance longevity. So to me, there's a lot of wonderful benefits to this. Another benefit is that you're not spending the whole night through digesting your food. If we eat late into the night, then our body is working on digestion, when as we sleep, it should be working on repair and cleanup. And you absolutely want to give your body time to clean up. So on average, there's been studies that show that people eat about every 3 hours for about 15 hours in length of time. So the typical eating window is typically 15 hours. Now that's a lot of grazing and snacking and just, having breakfast here, not really paying attention. And so if you do this initially, a drawback could be that initially you're gonna feel hungry. You might have a little bit of headache, you might be a little hangry, but it's very important to prepare. And this may initially make you feel deprived, which may make you eat more in your 8-hour window. So things to be cautious of, things to be conscious of, but I also think it's a really good way to just reflect on your behaviors. And if you try something like this and you say, gosh, I really was eating, many more hours than I was not eating in the day. And, where are my kind of pitfalls in the day? This is a good locator. Stepping back and doing something like this, it's not, deprivation at all, but it is a way to just kind of locate where you are and decide, moving forward if you want to make some changes or not. So that leads into my next point, which is it totally matters what you eat in that 8-hour window. If you begin to fast for that 16 hours and now you're feeling deprived in that 8-hour window and you're cramming in more calories than you would typically, I would suggest this may not be what is going to be best for you. So what kinds of food would you want to eat during the 8-hour window? I would suggest, because this is where my background is coming from and where I have studied the most, a whole food plant-based diet. Now, what that means is eating lots of plant foods that come from the earth. So fruits and vegetables, whole intact grains, beans and legumes, and having a smaller portion of nuts and seeds, avocados, and cutting out the refined and processed oils, sugars, and flours. Now, even if you did that and you never put intermittent fasting into practice, you would lose weight if you're eating a standard American diet already. I have an entire video on how to start a whole food plant-based diet, which I will link up here as well as down in the description. So I'm not going to go into total detail, but that video goes into a lot of detail if you are interested. But all I will say is that you can eat freely fruits, vegetables, whole intact grains, beans, and legumes. And then you would want to keep in moderation whole grain breads or tortillas or cereals, tofu, tempeh, soy milks, or nut milks. And the foods that you would want to eat sparingly if you're trying to lose weight would be nuts and seeds and avocados. And then you want to completely avoid refined sugars, oils, and flours. In that 8-hour window, what do you want to eat? You want to eat from the food groups that I've talked about already. You want to have starchy and non-starchy vegetables. You want to have whole intact grains. You want to have beans and legumes. You want to have berries every single day. You want to have some other kind of fruit. You want to have leafy green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, a small amount of nuts and seeds. And of course, you want to make sure that you're hydrating with water throughout the day as well. So again, I go in more detail into that other video, which I will link, about how to start a whole food plant-based diet. Now, to round this out, I just want to give you some practical tips that I find work for myself, and hopefully they will be helpful to you as well. My first tip is to just give it 3 days. If you're brand new to doing this, any kind of changeover really takes at least 3 days to kind of get the hang of. In that first 3 days, if you've never done any kind of intermittent fasting at all, you might feel irritable and moody, but if you can give it at least 3 days or a few days time, you will begin to feel lighter, more clear, and you will even feel improved sleep in that short amount of time. And implementing this into your day does work if it helps you get a healthy jump start on eating, good in that 8-hour window. My next tip, and this really is the blanket for all tips really, in my opinion, is that you plan ahead and that you be prepared. Because if you're prepared, then you are able to succeed in any realm of life, really. Knowing what you're going to eat ahead of time. Maybe you have, a couple minutes, in the morning when you still are in that 16-hour stretch of not eating, where you're thinking, okay, I'm going to have this for breakfast, I'm going to have this for lunch, I'm going to have this for dinner, and these are my snacks. I typically, in the half hour before I'm about to break my fast, will make my breakfast. So that when that hour comes, I'm ready to go and I don't feel deprived. I've got my food and I can move on with my life. And then the same thing applies to making sure that you are prepared and ahead of time for your cutoff window. If you say, I'm going to stop eating at 6 or I'm going to stop eating at 7, then you need to make sure that your dinner is probably eaten and ready in the 5 o'clock hour. So it's all about a little bit of forethought and preparation, which truly is the key to any kind of weight loss. If you feel like this goal of getting to that 16-8 window is insurmountable, I would recommend you do it slowly. So say, for example, you eat until 10 p.m. typically when you're watching this video for the first time, and you want your eating window to stop at 6. Don't just go from 10 to 6. Start by, cutting off your eating at 9. Keep it there for a few days, then go to 8, then 7, and then 6, and then see how it goes. This is really subjective to what's going to work with your schedule. So I think that, of course, studies show that if you stop eating at 7, you're going to give your body the best possible chance to digest and repair and have a good night's sleep. So I would definitely stick to at least 7 if you can. But if you want it to be earlier, then you do. And if your work or your schedule doesn't allow, then you make it a little bit later and you eat a little bit later in the day. Make it work for you. And of course, don't make this an excuse to just eat whatever you want within 8 hours. It's not magic. Intermittent fasting is not going to work unless you are still, eating healthy foods in that 8-hour window and you are still overall in a slight calorie deficit. If you're really trying to lose weight, that's what it's all about. And new habits only form as we step out and we do them a little bit at a time. You get used to your new normal, then you push your goal a little bit more, you get used to that new normal, and then you see success. Studies show that people who stopped eating between the hours of 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. for 2 weeks lost about a pound each week, comparable to those who had no time restriction. So if at all possible, aim to end at 7. I feel like this is easy to understand, it's easy to implement, it's also really easy not to do and to not implement. So make a decision ahead of time. I hope that everything I've presented in this video has been clear, given you something to think about, and helped you realize that this is totally doable and something that you absolutely can do if you choose to. My prime takeaways from this video would be to let you know that in order to lose weight, no matter what you do, you have to be in some sort of calorie deficit. Intermittent fasting in a 16-8 manner is a very doable and very effective way to help you be in that calorie deficit. So putting the two together, intermittent fasting 16-8 plus also having a healthy whole food plant-based diet, when you put those two together, it's particularly powerful and you're going to get results. And of course, you can choose how you want to eat during that 8 hours. Maybe it is 2 larger meals, maybe it's 3 adequate medium meals, maybe it is a larger 1 meal with a couple of snacks. It's 100% up to you and how it's going to work best for you. The most important tip is that you do this to help you succeed. If it's not working, then you got to step back and say, what am I doing that is not working here and how can I change it? Those are my tips. I hope that you found this video valuable. I really do wish you all the best. I think this is something that you can easily implement or at least give a try for a week and see if you like it and decide from there. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below and give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It really, truly does help out my channel. If you guys have any questions about intermittent fasting in this regard or about weight loss, please leave a comment down in the description below. And if you are looking for some help, some guidance, or accountability, I run a vegan weight loss program. I also do personal coaching, and it would truly be my honor to help you get back onto the road to health and lose some weight. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.